Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Pharma Focus. I hope you guys are doing great, and this video is going to be a part of GVP Module 6 in continuation to that which we have already discussed earlier. So this is regarding the validity of the ICSRs or the individual case safety reports. So in general terms, what an ICSR is, it is a document that describes an adverse event or a reaction that is experienced by a patient following the use of any kind of medicinal product. Now, these ICSRs, they are the form of a foundation of any kind of further activities that take place. For example, the potential safety signals, evaluating the risks of the drug, and implementing any kind of regulatory actions that are necessary. So, every report that is submitted is not considered as valid. So how do we assess that an ICSR which is submitted is to be considered as a valid ICSR? So I'm going to discuss about that. So firstly, why the validation of ICSRs is important. So the first and the foremost thing, it is very critical to ensure the patient safety. Secondly, it helps in maintaining the regulatory compliance. And third, for the accurate detection and analysis of the safety signals. So, any information that is given should be complete, accurate, and consistent. And the other thing is the validating of ICSRs is essential for the submission to health authorities as well. So, if we talk about the criteria that we look at for the validity of ICSRs, then according to the ICH E2D guidelines, so ICH E2D guidelines are the post-approval safety data management guidelines, which include the definitions and standards for the expedited reporting. So if we talk about it, we have four major criteria, which is the identifiable reporter, identifiable patient, and a suspect medicinal product or a drug substance, and an adverse event or a reaction. So if any of these elements are missing from the report, then it cannot be considered as a valid report, and it should not be submitted as an ICSR to the regulatory authorities as well. So let's first talk about the basic first point, which is the identifiable reporter. So for an reporter to be identifiable, there may be multiple reporters to a case. But if in case there are multiple reporters, at least one of the reporters need to be identifiable. And how it can be characterized, it is by the various parameters that are listed here. For example, the qualification, physician, pharmacist, or any other HCP or non-HCP. We have the name or the initial, we have the address, or we have the contact information. So for any reporter to be considered as identifiable, it should have the basic evidence, sufficient evidence that that particular person actually exists. So, for example, let's talk about, we have a line which says anonymous person online said that the drug caused dizziness. So we don't know who that person is, from where that person is. But if it is written that Dr. Jane Smith, I'm taking it as an example, Dr. Jane Smith, who is working as a hospital pharmacist in London, UK, has said this line that the drug caused the dizziness, then in that scenario we can maybe gather more detail, or we can do a follow-up to the person. So in that scenario the person becomes identifiable, and that can be considered as a complete valid ICSR. Next up, we have the identifiable patient. Now, for a patient to be identifiable, the patient has to be characterized by at least one of the following qualifying descriptors, which is the initials, medical record number from a general practitioner, hospital or investigation, date of birth, age or age group, gestation period, or the gender. So again, according to ICSE2B, the term identifiable, it refers to the possibility of verification of existence of a patient based on the available information. So the information should be complete as possible and in accordance with the local data protection laws. So ICSR, it cannot be considered valid for the submission unless the information is available for at least one of the qualifying descriptors of the patient. So at least one of these descriptors have to be there for the person to be considered as an existing person and as an identifiable patient. So next up we have the suspected adverse reaction. Alright, so for the identifiable patient, the example can be we have a valid case if the person is reported as, for example, a male, he's a 45 years old male and developed hepatic failure, rather than a vague line or a vague term which states that someone took the drug and developed hepatic failure. So we don't know who that person is. It is not distinguishable and it cannot be identified. So we have the suspected adverse reaction now. So the adverse reaction of the event that shall be described and correctly specified. So ICSR is to be considered invalid if the relationship between the medicinal product and the reported adverse reaction has been excluded and the notified competent authority or marketing authorization holder, it agrees with the assessment. So in the cases where it is suspected, where it is notified that the medicinal product and the reported adverse event, they do not have a relationship, those cases are considered invalid. The report also does not qualify as a valid ICSR if it is reported that the patient experienced an unspecified adverse reaction. There is no information of the type of adverse reaction. So there are some cases that are received wherein the unspecified adverse reaction is reported. So any such cases where we don't know the type of adverse reaction, those cases are considered invalid. And the report is also not valid if only an outcome or consequence is notified without any further information about the clinical circumstances under which the suspected adverse event occurred. All right. So for adverse event or reaction, let's say the example, a clear description of what happened after the drug exposure. So developed generalized rash and fever after taking amoxicillin. So this is a complete valid statement which helps us to know that the person took amoxicillin and he developed generalized rash and fever. So that is a kind of valid statement. If we talk about the drugs, then for ICSRs to stand valid, at least one of the drug or the medicinal product shall be named which is suspected or causing the adverse drug reaction. And lack of any four elements, it leads to the case as the invalid and it does not qualify for the submission as an ICSR. So if I talk about a simple valid ICSR in a simple um, single line, then I would say, let's say a 52-year-old female developed severe nausea and vomiting after taking metformin 500 mg twice daily for diabetes. Now, the case was reported by her physician, Dr. Ali Khan from Karachi, Pakistan. So, if we look at the four required elements, then we have an identifiable reporter, which is Dr. Ali Khan here, and he is from Karachi, Pakistan. Also, we have an identifiable patient, which is the 52-year-old female. We have the age, we have the gender of the patient. Then we have the suspect product, which I stated as metformin. And along with that, we have an additional information that the person was taking 500 mg twice daily, and that too for the indication that is diabetes. Now, what is the adverse event? Then it is nausea and vomiting. So this is a valid ICSR. If we talk about kind of an invalid ICSR, then let's say that a newspaper article it mentioned that many people they experienced fatigue after using a diabetes medication. So in such scenario, we do have an adverse event which is fatigue, but we don't have any identifiable patient, any identifiable reporter, and drug name is not specified. So in such scenarios, this is not going to be considered as a valid ICSR. So the ICSR validity insurance is very important for the regulatory compliance, for the signal detection, for the data quality, and apart from that, for the patient safety. In cases you wish to go through any kind of the regulatory references for the validation of ICSRs, then you can definitely go through ICH E2D or the EMA GVP Module VI. Then we do have the FDA guidance, which is the post-marketing adverse experience reporting for human drug and licensed biological products. You can go through that. And that's it for the validity of ICSRs. In the coming videos, I'll be talking more about the GVP Module 6. So stay tuned for more such videos. Thank you.